Thank Hashem that we're able to learn. That's of our learning. We should have some English immediately. It should be for Shlema for David Gershom and Chaya. Okay, we're going to start today right after the Mishnah on Tzadik Tesamid Beis, Mesu Aksherim. But what happened in the Mishnah was that there was a confusion between a mother's child and her daughter-in-law's child. And became problematic for the yibum of that person's wife, because there's an option over there. It could be that it's a daughter-in-law's child, and then the brothers of the daughter-in-law would do yibum. But it could be. But then, what would it be with the daughters of the mother? I mean, the sons of the mother. The sons of the daughter-in-law could do yibum. If it would be the child of the daughter-in-law. But if it's but what about the sons of the mother-in-law? Can they do yibum? They actually can marry, but they can't do yibum. So it would need to be chalitza first. The other way, though, would be more problematic. If it's the child of the mother-in-law, then they're not allowed to marry their aunt. That becomes problematic. Okay, that's what we said, that the Bnei Zakena can do yibum, but the Bnei Hakala cannot do yibum. But here we said Meswak Sherim. Let's say, not that this fellow passed away, this one that was mixed up, but let's say one of the other ones. You see, the mother also had other sons. Good morning. And the daughter-in-law also had other sons. So we said Meswak Sherim. So it would be a similar situation, how the yibum would work. But Ella Hanach Mishum Deirivlu Havlu Psulim. What are you calling them? Psulim? You're calling them that they're possible. Basically, the term for the definite children are called ksherim. So the Gemara says, well, in contrast to that, the ones that are endowed are called pasal. Amrav Papa Ema Mesu Havadayim. The definite. It edits the Mishnah, that it doesn't mean that the kosher passed away. It means the vaday. The vaday means definite. We said Livnei Akalach Ad Chelet Tzchulo. Did this work in the Mishnah?
This is talking about yibum with mixed up,
right? Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, child. So, what we said now was that the Bnei Hakala Teruvas for the mother, for the child of the mother-in-law. 1 second, Mesu Aksherim. So then the Teruvas for the mother, for the Teruvas, which kasha? If it's the mother's children, then the Teruvas can do only chalitza, because they can't marry their aunt. And it's possible that the taruvas means the mixture, the confusion, right? There's two sons here that we don't know who they are. There's two, they're mixed up. So, two husbands who died. So if it's the older couple, if it's the older generation, one generation up, then they can't do yibum, because they can't marry their aunt. And just in case, could be it's the younger generation, could be it's the brother-in-law. Could be it's the younger one they can't marry. But if it's the younger generation that passed away, that the husband passed away, then they could do yibum. Because even if it's the older generation child, but he can still marry the younger one. But the only thing is, first you have to do chalitza. So one does chalitza, another one does yibum, and then we're all set. Because either it's a real yibum, or if it's not a real yibum, chalitza was performed by the other one, and they can marry. It's a regular marriage. Gemara says, yeah, we don't. It wouldn't be called yibum. We're using the term yibum because it may be yibum. Dafka michlatz v'hada yivume. Only if you do chalitza first, and then you do yibum. Avol yivume bereisha, but to do yibum first, loy, that's not acceptable. The kapaga biyavama l'shuk, because he's having the yavam marry someone out of who she needs to marry. Okay. The next case. Next case in the Mishnah, that if there was a kohenes, that her child got mixed up with the child of the maidservant. So we said that they can eat truma and they can even get a portion, one portion in the granary. Why could they eat truma? Said because the maid is also allowed to eat truma. Miknas kaspe. So Gemara says chelak echad pshita, to get a portion. Of course, they get a portion. Rashi has like a parenthesis here. I don't know what this question is in that case. It says chelak echad sal kadaitach. They get a portion for each. He's switching the question. Whatever the case is, of course they get a portion. So it says eima chelak ke'echad. They get a portion if they come together. So we're going to see that there's going to be an issue of giving truma directly to a slave, because he can claim that I'm a kayan. Anyone see me over there by getting the truma? See,
In most cases, it's mutar for them.
They can eat. They're allowed to eat it, but when you give it to them publicly, they may claim that they're actually kayanim.
Well, you could also see they're a slave too, right?
Why? Because they had
I don't know.
branding. Maybe. Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. Commander Amarin Chalkin Shumal Eved Elam Ken Rabbi Imai. We're following, our Mishnah is following the opinion that holds that you can't give truma to a slave unless the master is together with him. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. We have a brisa that we have a machlekes about this. Ein chalkim truma le'eved elam ken Rabbi Imai div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda's view is that you can't give to the slave unless the master is there. We said the concern. Rabbi Yossi Aimer Yachal Sheimer Im Kayanani Tinuli B'Shvil Atzmi. The Mevid Kayanani Tinuli B'Shvil Rabbi. No. You can give to the slave. They'll say, look, if I'm a slave, so I deserve it, and if I'm a kayan, I deserve it. The Gemara then explains, I don't know which one started, what came first, the chicken or the egg. But whatever the case is, that if this is really what's going on in Rabbi Yossi's area, then a person can't claim, of course I'm a kayan. I was given truma. Can't claim that because an Eved was given truma also. But in the place of Rabbi Yehuda, person can claim, I'm a kayan. I was given truma because an Eved was not given truma in his place. I'm not sure which way it started. If it started this way, it started. One told me in the show, they said, "Is there a kayan?" And they're looking, "There's a kayan." So there was an old fellow there, came from Russia. He said, "Ich bin a kayan." So they said, "You're a kayan? How do you know you're?" He said, "Weil mein Tate is given a rabbi."
That's the rabbi.
That's what he understood was a kayan. Okay. So that happens. Tanya started in a brisa. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. We remember Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. He was the son of Rabbi Tzadok that fasted, right? So he says now, "Miyamei lo yadati ala eidas echad, v'helu avad lakuna al pi." He says, "I only did one testimony, and they made an eved into a kayan because of my testimony. So he said, Helus al kadaitach. Is that really what happened? That they made a eved into a kayan? Helu means they raised him up for his status. If an animal of a tzaddik, Hashem doesn't bring a takala, a stumbling, that what? That the animal of Reb Pinchas ben Yair wouldn't eat the grain without the meiser taken. So if that's the way it works by a tzaddik, so tzaddikim atzman like kolshkein, by the tzaddik himself, for sure he shouldn't have any mishaps, right? That the mistake happened, Hashem protects them. Says what happened was they wanted to, but it didn't actually happen. But what was the story? He saw someone getting truma. He said, I saw him get truma. But that was in the territory of Rabbi Yossi. In Rabbi Yossi's territory, they give truma to an eved directly. And he ended up testifying about it in the territory of Rabbi Yehuda, where they don't give to an eved. And that was understood in that area, that if he gets truma, he must be a kayan. Turned out he did get truma. Everything that he said was absolutely correct. But what's implied from that was not correct. Depends on the location. Yeah, I can see this mistake. It would be an easy mistake to happen. Rabbanan was taught in a brisa, Sarah ein chalkim lem truma beis hagran. Says 10 people, you can't give them truma directly in the mill, in the granary. Ve'elohein, cheirish, sheita, v'katan, a deaf mute, an imbecile, and a child. Tumtum v'androgynous. Tumtum and androgynous, we said that their gender was not determined.
Even though they're a Kohen,
Even though they're kayanim, right? They can. Right. Right.
What do you mean in the home, but can't get it themselves?
If they're in the house, they can eat truma. They have a kayan status.
So an eved could eat.
He can eat truma from his master.
What about if they're hosting a Yisrael?
No.
No.
So va'isha, and a woman can't get the truma from the granary. We mentioned this before once. Va'aral va'atame, someone that's uncircumcised and someone that's tamei. V'nais isha shein again, a kayan that's married to a woman that he wasn't allowed to marry. He's still a kayan. The child is going to be a halal. She becomes a halala, but he's still a kayan. But nevertheless, you don't give him truma. Is he allowed to eat it at home? I'm not sure. Sounds like over here that he is, as we'll see. But kulam mashagim lem l'batayim. Oh, it says clearly not. All of them, you can send it to them to their house. Chutz mitame v'nais isha shein again, except for someone that's tamei, and for the man that's married to a woman that he can't be married to. Why can't he marry her? She's a divorcee or something. She's Jewish. Could be that. What would be if she's not Jewish?
She's not married.
It sounds like a problem. And then dragon. So we said that was that's a problem because he shouldn't be married to an androgynous because he's a man.
Right.
But if it would be a woman, maybe the androgynous is a I don't know. You're mixing me up. This is a very interesting piece. The cheirish shaita v'katan, they don't have intelligence. So therefore, Rashi says it's zilusa de truma. It's like degrading the truma to give it to them directly. They're allowed to eat it, but they don't come and take a portion of it. Everyone's watching. It's as if like it's a ceremony, and you don't have that. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Although we're going to say somewhere else that it looks like there's no one else there. What type of ceremony is that? I don't know. I understand these things like, well, on Yom Kippur, you don't give an aliyah to, to have the child do glila, or maybe you can get maftir also. You don't, it's a big day. You don't do that. You give. But here, I don't know really what's going on, why it should be like that. Tumtum androgynous nami, beri b'fnei atzmi. Tumtum and androgynous also, they're their own breed, they're their own gender. There's a third gender, or maybe four, and we don't give to them. It's also zilusa. Eved nami, a slave also. Dilmasi lasukim mitruma liyuchsin. That's the obvious problem. That's an easy one. If he's going to be getting truma directly, then he's going to be able to say that I'm really a kayan. Oral v'tamei mishum demisi. You don't give to the oral, the one that's uncircumcised, and the one that's tamei, because it's disgusting. They're allowed to. Was the oral allowed to eat truma? Yeah, right. Kulam mishagelim lebatayim. Noisei isha sheina higenes lei mishum knasa. We make a fine. There's a fine on him that you don't give him the truma. But why can't you give the truma to the woman? What's the problem? It's machlekes. Rav Papa and Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua. These are like fifth generation Amirayim. They're students of Abai and Rava. Yeah. One says that if you give to a woman, there's a possibility that maybe she's been divorced already, and she's coming to get her truma that she would always get, but it turns out that she's not allowed to get truma anymore, because when she was getting truma, that was because she was a kohenes. She was married to a kohen, and now she's divorced. She's just going to pick up the truma that she always used to get, but she's not allowed to. If she has a son, she can. If she doesn't have a son, she goes back to her father's house. She can't. So that's one possibility, and we don't know that she's divorced. The divorce took place without anyone being, it wasn't public files back then. It really was public file, because they did make it like it was sort of like an announcement that there was a coil when a woman was divorced, because there were witnesses. You needed witnesses, so people would know about it, but not necessarily would everyone know about it. Then there's another issue. If the women can go get their food from the granary, maybe there'll be yichud over there together with the owner of the granary. Be there alone in the field or wherever it is. That's where she gets her food. We don't want to encourage that. That's in the city. This is out in the field. Yeah.
Now, come to the granary. The obligation of giving truma is upon the owner of the
Owner.
right? So I bring grain to the mill to get crushed up. What I say to the owner of the mill, and if the Kohanim come, give them whatever percentage of this.
You can make a shliach.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, well, by truma there's a shliach. Or you're standing there and you give it to him. Or maybe.
Tell Naftali, thank you for asking my question.
Thank you. So is that what the way it works? You bring to the granary and say, okay, Kohanim come, you're going to be much later to give it away.
Could be, unless it was the owner himself there. I'm sure at the wine presses they shared it. It wasn't like each person had his own wine press. They had to have like a press that everyone used. It wouldn't be, right? It wouldn't be that every person had their own press. It was like a huge, probably by the mill as well. Yeah, they probably came and they used
by the kotel.
Oh, the Yitzis by the kotel.
Oh wow. Is that just a fake background? Is that real? Oh no, it's not.
Okay.
No, it's I figured it's
My binayo. What's the difference between the answer of Rav Huna? Yeah.
If they're divorced, she goes back to the father's house.
Yeah.
If the father's dead.
It means she goes back to that status of the father's house. And then if the father was a Yisrael, she can't eat truma anymore. Yeah. If there was a child, then she stays in the status of her
And if
husband,
the father was a Kohen.
and everything is great.
Right, Jesus.
Either way, she can have. Yeah.
Granaries without the country.
Now, yeah, that's the issue. Now, even if in her situation, even if she's divorced, she could get because her husband's a Kayan and her father's a Kayan. But we don't give to women because we have other issues. Because in some cases, it's not. So the women don't go to the granary. That was like they made a rule. My benaya, what's the difference between these two reasons? Ikka benaya beidari, the makar of lamas beidari is the granary. Right? Remember, machnashta, the beidari. The granary that's close to the city. However, people are not there. So what does it mean close to the city? That means they'll know if she's divorced. They hear the news, but there still is a problem with yichud. Inami, the merachik b'shchichi b'enchi. Either it's far away from the city, they don't hear the news, but however, there's a lot of people there.
Right.
Sometimes they have, these tourist spots. So there's always people there, even though it's not next to any houses. A lighthouse. And everyone, they can send to their houses except for the tamei, and for the woman and for the man that's married to a woman that he wasn't supposed to marry, wasn't allowed to marry. Why are you allowed to send to the Aral? Mishum da'anis. It's not his fault that he's an Aral. Why is it not his fault that he's an Aral? Because his brothers passed away from hemophilia. So it's not his fault. That's the way he was born. He has those genes, the genetics. Taminame ha'anis, but someone Tami was also an Inus. Possibly. So why are we being strict on him? It says high nafishunse v'high nafishunse. Different levels of an Inus. Being careful. Yeah.
Why can't you say when the blood drainages?
Yeah, there's different, in different ways, in different areas, the way you view mistakes. Some people, they're like, there's no such thing as a mistake. You should have planned it out before, and you should have taken into account that there's going to be a delay. You should, some times you have to plan like much more strict. Other things, was I supposed to know there's going to be traffic and the bridge was going to be up and the plane was going to be there's different approaches to an Inus. So there's a real Inus, and then there's an Inus that you could have avoided possibly. Okay, Taner Rabbanan. Start in a brisa. Ha'eved v'isha ein cholkan lem truma beis hagranos. A slave and a woman, you don't give them truma in the beis hagranos. Makam shecholken noisnin leisha tchila patronos miyad. An interesting brisa tells me that you don't. And if you do, you give to the woman first. That's a good answer, actually. My kamar, what is this talking about? Either you do or you don't. It says hachi kamar. It's actually, it doesn't say because of the yichud issue that's going to be there. It says because of zilusa. You have a good answer though. Dr. Stein's answer was that if you give to the man first, then the man that's distributing will be left with the woman at the end as the last people. That's a good answer. Yeah. That's it. We have a new sefer over here. Divrei Reni. To publish that for the handed out by the CM. He says no, it doesn't want it. Okay.
Only because he went to YU. That's it.
Why me?
So what's the issue over here? That that the woman, it's shameful for the woman to have to stand in line, and you have to take that into consideration. So therefore, you try to help her get out of there as fast as possible. Amarava, Mireshikavi Asugavravi Itzaladina. Originally, when I would have two cases in front of me, one was a case of a man, and one was a case of a woman. They weren't arguing with each other. There, each one was a teveya. The woman was the plaintiff, and the man was the plaintiff in the other one. So they came to din. Havisharina Tigra the Gavra Beresha. I would resolve the quarrel of the man first. Amina the Mechayev mitzvahs said he has to get out of here because he has mitzvahs that he has to. It's going to be bittul Torah or other mitzvahs, whatever. So kivan the shemana laha. But once I heard this halacha that you have to give the meiser ani to the woman, not truma. We resolved that. We said we're not giving truma. It's meiser. Once I heard that you give meiser to the woman first, so Sharina Tigr the Itza Beresha. So I resolved the court case of the woman first. My time mishum zilusa, because it's shameful for.
When there were women collecting stuff here, we could give to them first before them to the men. It's similar to that thing.
Maybe
It's a little convenient.
maybe that
Woman has to approach each man.
Right.
as it comes out of the shul.
that makes sense.
Also, the Divrei Reni, it's in the Steinsaltz. So Steinsaltz got it from Reni.
What does it say there?
I don't know.
It says, especially the ritva. It's another reason to give the woman first. If the owner gives the man first, he might be left alone with the woman. Very good. Very good.
They got it from you.
Very good. Yeah.
You're right. You're in good company, you know?
When you want the sefer to be sold, so
I'm not making any book.
you have two options. You can ask for a skama, or you can ask for a cherem. Both of them will help the sefer be sold, you know.
The Skama, I know. What's
The
the
cherem is excommunication. You know.
It's stealing.
No,
It's
no,
worth
it's
more.
people like to buy like a contraband. And say, oh, it's
Pictures in it.
okay. Higdilu ataru v'schulam. We said over here that the confused children from the mother-in-law and from the daughter-in-law, when they grow up. Actually, over here was the next case. The terubis was over here between a slave and was it a slave and a kohen? Yeah. And a kohenes. So when they grow up, these two boys or whatever, shichru, and they would free each other. One of them is a slave. So they would free each other. And that way they would be able to get married. So ibai in ilai bai ilai, shichru sounds like when they freed each other. It doesn't say that they must free each other. It sounds like if they don't want to, they don't have to. Bamai. What does it mean? We give them the option. Lisa shivcheni yachal baschayren yachal, they can't get married. When we had a chatzi eved b'chatzi baschayren, right? Chatzi shivchu chatzi bas, or an eved, that was chatzi eved chatzi ben chayren. We said that we forced the owners to the other owner to free the other half, so that he should be able to get married.
Wait, this is
I don't get it. How does a slave?
So we have two children here. One of them is a child. Yeah.
One is a slave and one is free. You don't know which is which.
So what we do is the free one who was the master. We don't know which one, but each one writes a document of manumission, and he gives it to his to the other guy. Each one does that, and whichever one was the master had freed the slave.
So one of them is null, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, one of them is the dust. Right. So we forced the owner to free the slave. So we're asking, why don't they? Why is there no compulsion here to free? We're just saying, well, if they free, what do you mean if? They have to. So Gemara says, Amarava Ema Kaifin says, you're right. They do have to. You have to adjust with the wording of the Mishnah. Nice and love Chumrei Chulu. Well, what would happen now is that we don't know who's who, so they're going to get the stringencies of the Kayan and the stringencies of Yisrael. Amarav, I'm sorry, Lamai Hilchasa. What is this referring to? Amarav Papa Leminchasam regarding the carbon mincha. They bring a meal offering. Nikmetzes keminchas Yisrael. The Kayan needs to do kmitza. Kmitza is he puts the 3 fingers in, and he does the scoop, and he burns it on the altar.
Flour and oil, or
The flour and oil.
okay.
Veina necheles, but it also not eaten, because when a Kayan brings a mincha, it's entirely burnt. And when Yisrael brings a mincha, only a portion of it is put on the altar. So what do you do over here? You don't know if he's a Kayan or a Yisrael. So you do kmitza, you do the portion, and then you can't eat it. Minchas Kayanim. So how do you deal with that? It says a kaimitz karav batzim Yisrael krebel natzim. You burn the kaimitz separately, and then you burn the remaining separately. Ikarikan, the Gemara asks, you're not allowed to burn something that already had the part of it that's supposed to go onto the altar, that was already on the altar. You're not allowed to go burn the rest of it. So it works. Rabbi Lazar has a solution. You're not allowed to put it up as an offering, but you are allowed to burn it as if it's wood that's as fuel for the fire. You can't burn it as offering, but you burn it as fuel for the fire. People can donate fuel also. They can donate wood. Tanya Rabbi Lazar Aimer, that's Rabbi Lazar's opinion, that you can't burn it for reach nichayach, that means for a sweet smell as an offering to Hashem. But you can burn it as if it's fuel, as if it's wood. And that's what they did here. The kaimitz was brought properly. And then the other one, they said they're just doing it to keep the fire burning, whatever it was put up as fuel. Hanichal Rabbi Lazar. That's only going to fit according to Rabbi Lazar, but according to Elder Rabbanan Michael Meimer, they hold that you're not allowed to do this. They said David like Rabbi Lazar bar Shimon. According to them, you'd have to follow Rabbi Lazar bar Shimon. The Tanya Rabbi Lazar bar Shimon Aimer, that you spread it out on the area. Rashi says is the place where they did the Trumas Hadeshin in the morning. So it wouldn't be eaten, and it also wouldn't be burnt. Over there, there's machlekes if you're allowed to do this by the minchas chayte shel kayanim, the basakravehi. Was the minchas kayan is someone that minchas chayte is someone that was poor and he didn't bring the full. There was a carbon oil of for someone that made something tamei, so they didn't bring the full sacrifice. They brought the poor man's sacrifice. That was supposed to be burnt on the altar. So over there they argued about this. But over here the Rabbanan would also say that you spread it, that you can spread it over the ashes. Okay. We have a new Mishnah. We had this case before. We quoted this, I think. It's a classic suffix. She didn't wait the 3 months in between one marriage and the other. And now she has a child. Well, what's the problem? It's either him or him. Right? Well, the problem is let's say she has children from the first other children. And 2 children from the other one. This is the 3rd child. And then she has another 2 children from afterwards. It doesn't matter. So she has a total of 5 children, and the one in the middle is the dowry. So, choltzim v'lei miyabin. They have to do chalitza.
Whoa.
That means that if he passed away, this child gets married. Number 3, the doubt, gets married. So they share the same mother, and they possibly share the same father. You can't marry the sister-in-law if it's only the same mother. There's no yibam if it's only the same mother. Only yibam if it's the same father. We don't know who is who. We don't know who, if this one belongs to this father, to that father. V'chein hu lahem.
There is an exception.
What is that?
The first husband was not Jewish. So then, no marriage.
Right. V'chein hu lahem. And the same thing would apply if one of them passed away. He would have to do chalitza v'lei miyabim if he's the only one remaining. Otherwise, he would get someone else to do it.
If she converted during the pregnancy, so then that baby born was new neshama. It's irrelevant. Yes, something like that.
If she converted it, then the old one would have been not Jewish.
No,
The mother converted.
mother, right, the old.
But then the old one
But
isn't Jewish.
when she converted and the baby was born, the baby now is disconnected from the first child. So
I
again.
know, but the child from the first guy,
Right.
which that's what we're discussing,
That's what- Yeah,
would not be Jewish if the mother wasn't Jewish.
but the mother, no, but the
Mother
mother
just
converted
converted-
during pregnancy,
Of the second one or the first one?
the first one.
Oh,
So the second
Oh,
the child is not really
oh.
something.
we still left this.
I apologize. I'm not there to control my client. I don't know what he's up to. I apologize.
Rabbi, what if
Yeah, it's the same story.
It's just another. And forgive
What-
my- yeah, it's-
It's getting a new lawyer. Yes.
but
Okay.
what if the lady did not have relations with her husband 3 months before he passed away? Like she knows,
Oh,
does that affect things?
I don't think we trust that.
Okay.
I mean, I
He
don't
was
know.
sick or he was traveling.
Well, that could be if he was sick or traveling. Yeah.
He had witnesses that they worked together for 3 months.
Yeah, that could be. It's like what? Yeah. I don't remember. I think I seem to remember that we had a case like that where we had, if he was old or something, we had it like a Mishnah or something. Yeah.
Look at how your class, this is, we're not even worried about all the complicated stuff in the Gemara. We know that core. We're complicating it more. What class, what about-
Get his lawyer back on the phone here.
Haya la yachin min harishan v'achin min hasheni, shaloi miyasa ha'eim. This is very interesting. If the father had other children, the first father, and then the second father had other children, but not from this mother.
Right.
So hu cheletz miyabim. So if he's the only brother, so he would do chalitza, and he can also do yibam. Why? Why is he allowed to do yibam? Maybe he's not the brother of the. Well, here's the answer. If he's not the brother, then there is no other brother, and then there's no mitzvah of yibam, and then he's allowed to marry them. V'heim, but they echad cheletz v'echad biyabim. One has to do chalitza first, and then one does yibam. Now, why is that? Not, yeah, because maybe there is. If he passed away, then there are two brothers, one from the first husband, one from the second husband.
Right.
Then one the chalitza has to be done, and then the yibam is done. Otherwise, it would be yibam l'shuk. She'd be getting married before her chalitza. Yisrael v'echad kayin. That's interesting. If one of the husbands was a Yisrael and one's a Kayan, so what's this child? Nicey Yisrael Kayan. He has to marry someone that could have married a Kayan, because just in case. Vein mitamal mesim, can't go to a cemetery just in case. Im nitma, if he does become tamein a seifika serbam, he can't get the lashes, just in case he's a Yisrael. We're not going to hit him. Eina eichel betruma, can't eat truma. We don't know if he's a Yisrael. V'machal eina masham keren v'chaimish, but if he does, he doesn't have to pay. You'd have to prove it to him that he was a Yisrael. Veina chelik ala geiren, can't go and collect by the granary. Of course not. Right, so say that. What does it say?
Great to sell.
He could sell it, and then he keeps the money because who would he sell it to? He would sell it to a kayan, so the price is a little lower. He doesn't get a portion of the sacrifices. That you can't give him the kachim, probably referring to the niceness of kachim. I think we said before that was referring to the skin, right?
What is the case here? A Kohen, the man is a Kohen and he marries who? Or has relations with who?
But we're talking about that this woman got married without waiting 3 months, but her first husband was a Kayan and the second husband is Yisrael, and now the child is possibly the first is a Kayan and possibly Yisrael. I said that in the better way, because it's if the first husband was Yisrael, the second husband is a Kayan, then it would depend how the first husband's marriage ended. If he died, then that would be an acceptable marriage. If they were divorced, that's not an acceptable marriage because the second husband can't marry a divorced. But if the first husband is a Kayan, that resolves our complication there. Okay, so he doesn't get the skins, and if he has his own, they can't take it out of his hand. He doesn't have to give the arm and the cheek and the stomach to the Kayan, which is regular gifts to the Kayan. What about his firstborn? You wait till it gets a mum, and then it could be eaten. A nice love he gets the stringencies of both. Okay.
Oh, I thought you said that before for
No, it's talking about his animal. Yeah, it's funny, I missed that. What about Pidyon Aben, you're asking? I don't know. Maybe you can't, maybe the Kayan can't claim any money from him because he's possibly a Kayan. He doesn't have to do the Pidyon Aben. Let's do this. How you name Kayanim? Who Einin Aleim Vehin Einim Alav? If they're both Kayanim, so they behave as an Einan. That means they can't do the service in the temple if he passes away. And he has to behave as an Einan when both of the fathers pass away. Who Einim Matam Alehem, Vehin Einim Matam Le, but they can't go to the cemetery because it could be they're not related. Who Einim Yarish Sam Avalheim Yarshim Maisai? He doesn't inherit them, but they inherit him. They divide it, of course. Right? When he tries to inherit each of the fathers, the other brothers say, "We don't know who you are. You're not related to us." So they push him to to the other family, and the other family push him to that family. He can never get anything. But when it comes to he passes away. He's going to be a rich guy. That's what happens. These guys, they make it big. Anyway, he passes away. They're going to split his money. Upater al makasai, al kilasi shalzev, but he's exempt if he hits or curses one of his fathers, one of the possible fathers. He can go to serve in each mishmar, but he can't take a portion. And if they're both in the same portion, then he can take a portion as well. If they're both in the same watch, Yeah.
Wasn't one of the fathers dead though?
Yeah. And what is that? Why is that a problem?
Saying if he hits both of either a father, well, he can't hit one of the fathers. The father is dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know that.
Unless they were divorced. And that's how the second marriage took place. Then you would have to adjust who was the Kayan. The Kayan would have to be the first husband. We'll see in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to get into that. Okay, the Gemara first says, Dafka Michlatz Vadi Yivume. Obviously, first you're doing Chalit and then Yibum. Aval Yivum Bereisha Loi the Kapaga Yivam B'Shuk. Because then the Yivam is going to be marrying out. First you resolve the Chalitza issue and then you can do Yibum. And then Miman of Shach, if it was the correct person to do Yibum with, then great. And if it wasn't, then well, Chalitza, then the one that was correct had done Chalitza already. Amar Shmuel Asar Kayanim Aimdim Mupir Shechem Memabal Ablad Shtuki. 10 Kayanim in a room.
Yeah, right.
It's no joke. And one of them lives with a woman. The child is a shtuki. Shtuki is a problematic lineage where you tell the child, we don't know who your father is. When the father says, Abba, Abba, they say, shh, shh, we don't know, shtuk.
I don't know who it is, but we know he's a Kohen.
Ah,
It's a Kohen.
my shtuki. What does it mean, shtuki? If you say that he can't get the inheritance, well, pshita, of course he's not going to get the inheritance. Doesn't know there's 10 people there. We don't even know who it is. It must be that we say that he's not a kayan. My timer, but he has to be a kayan. They're all there. There's only a makrav, a hisalei zara achrav, and it will be for him and his descendants after it by Pinchas. Beinan zare michas achrav. We need that his and descendants know who the father is. Baleka and you, we don't have that. Very interesting halacha that a kain has to know who his father is. Can't just say, well, I know that I'm a kain, I just don't know how. Not enough.
Well, he would have to know if his father's a Kohen or not.
He knows his father's a kain because he knows that there were only kainim in the room.
10 certified. Kohen.
10 certified, yeah, but he doesn't know which one is which. Which one is his father?
What are the chances of that happening?
That happens when some certifies himself as a Kohen. You know, so
Yeah.
downstairs,
Yeah.
Found out his father wasn't with him.
Can he do the Avodah,
No, can't do the Avaida.
even though it's certain that his father is a Kohen?
No, found out his father was.
No, he knows his father is a Kohen. He doesn't
It's
know.
really only relevant for Avaida. For every other thing, it sounds like he's a kayan. When it comes to the Avaida, that means that he has to know like his lineage. Maskefler of Papa. Papa asked the question, what's Hashem telling Avram that his descendants afterwards? In other words, we use the word acharav to tell me that we need to have yichus. And now you're telling me that acharecha, zaracha acharecha means something. What does it mean by Yisraelim? What are you telling me that then there's some service that they can't do? Over there, what it means is that you shouldn't marry a non-Jewish woman because then the child is going to end up not being Jewish. Okay. In other words, you should create that the child should go after you. Meisvei, I don't know if I can do this question. I have to stop at the Meisvei. The question's going to end in like 10 lines. Okay, we'll leave it here.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Shkoyach.
Great day.
Great job, everybody. Great job.